My cheater-hating boyfriend cheated on me and tried to end his life from guilt. Now he's in a psych ward, and I'm struggling between love and letting go. So here's the deal. I'm 22, and my boyfriend, who's 21, and I have been together for nearly 2 years now. And honestly, it's been the absolute best time of my life. I've never felt this comfortable, this close, or this genuinely happy with another person before. I really believed, or at least I thought, he was my soulmate. Now I know some folks might think I'm too young to be throwing that word around, but I can't even put into words just how much I love this guy. He's my partner in every sense, my rock, and I've always felt he felt the same way about me. We actually ended up together because his sister, who's been my best friend since we were in the 6th grade, kind of set the stage. He'd always had this crush on me, even back then, and about 2 years ago, we finally shared our first kiss and have been inseparable ever since. But a couple of days ago, he told me we needed to talk. Naturally, I was on edge, bracing myself for something bad, but nothing could have prepared me for what was coming. He drove us to this park near my house, and we sat there quietly for what felt like forever, just waiting for him to say something. He looked like he was about to be sick. Finally, he blurted out that a few days earlier, at a friend's farewell party, he'd cheated on me. Apparently, it was with his friend's sister, a girl he'd had a fling with before we got together. She pulled him up to her room, and they ended up kissing. I didn't even think. I just slapped him hard across the face and told him to take me home. He didn't say a word, just nodded and started the car. Now, the reason why his cheating was the last thing I ever saw coming was because this guy has always been the most vocal critic of cheating. I mean, he's been the #1 cheater-hater his whole life. He's constantly told me how disgusting and unforgivable cheating is, no matter the circumstances, whether someone's drunk, heartbroken, or whatever. He believed there was no excuse for it. He's seen the damage it's caused to people he cares about, and it seemed like that had only made him more firm in his beliefs. I've never met anyone so dead set against infidelity, and I'm with him on that. So, I never in a million years thought he would do that to me, or to anyone, for that matter. As he was driving me back home, he asked if I even wanted to talk about it. I snapped back, "Fine, let's talk about it." So, we pulled over. He started explaining that they had been drinking that night, of course, and his friend's sister kept pushing drinks on him, practically feeding him shots all evening. Now, to give you some context, my boyfriend has a history of addiction with both alcohol and substances. His parents were, and still are, heavy drinkers. His grandparents were the same. Even now, he has a mixed drink every night and stocks up on booze regularly. His family is, well, let's just say they're neglectful, but that's a whole different story. He was really drunk that night. He's usually at this friend's house a couple of times a week, and every time, he drinks. This girl has been envious of our relationship since the beginning, especially because they made out once before, and after that, he completely dropped her. He told me she led him up to her room, promising more shots, and he followed her. She then said, "You deserve this for what you did to me," and kissed him. And the thing is, he didn't stop her. They made out, and when I pressed him about what happened next, he admitted he put his hand down her pants. At that point, I slapped him again and screamed at him to take me home. I couldn't hear anymore. I still don't even know if that's how far things went. On the drive back, I was yelling and cursing at him the whole way, and his face, he looked like he wished he were dead. A few hours later, after crying my eyes out, his sister, who is also my best friend, told me she was furious when he got home. He had parked his car and gone for a walk, then locked himself in his room. Despite how much I was hurting, I knew him well enough to worry, so I told her to make sure he didn't do anything to hurt himself. She went and pounded on his door. Turns out, he had taken all of his migraine medication and downed some alcohol, trying to overdose. One of our friends ended up rushing him to the hospital. Right now, he's in a psychiatric hospital and will be there for the next few days. I can't even begin to describe how conflicted I feel. Angry, heartbroken, sad, but still in love. The day after, I went over to his house to grab my things, and that's when I found it. I was looking through his phone checking for texts, because apparently he tried to grab it when they were taking him to the ER, but they wouldn't let him have it. In his notes app, I found page after page filled with his thoughts, his disgust with himself, his self-loathing, him trying to figure out why he did what he did. He wrote about feeling terrified and powerless in that moment, calling himself a monster, saying he'd become the very thing he hated most. And throughout it all, there were declarations of his undying love for me, calling me the light of his life, the most precious thing in the world. I broke down right then and there. There was so much raw emotion, it gave me chills. I wish this situation was cut and dry, and that he was just a total jerk, but I know this is something deeper, something beyond just us or our relationship. Despite everything, I still love him so much. His pain weighs heavy on my heart, no matter how pathetic or cheesy that might sound. I don't want to lose him from my life. But I know if I'm ever going to have any self-respect or respect from others, I have to let go. This whole thing feels like a nightmare. I really believe he was manipulated by this jealous, spiteful girl, and that's one of the reasons I've been feeling so sympathetic. I actually called him today at the hospital, just to tell him he's loved and to take care of himself while he's there. I told him, "You were taken advantage of." And he just replied, "Ew, but I still did it." We've agreed that when he gets out, we'll have one final conversation. But I think it's pretty clear that what needs to happen is for us to part ways, heal, and grow on our own. We both still care for each other so deeply. And if we're truly meant to be, if we really are soulmates, then maybe we'll find our way back to each other someday. Only time will tell.